Okay, so just picture this for a second. It's early 2024. You're 58 years old.
Right?
You've given 9 years of your life to this one company, a property management firm.
Yeah.
You're, the reliable guy, the steady hand.
And at 58, you're looking at the finish line, right? You're thinking about coasting to 65, maybe topping up the retirement fund a little.
You are definitely not looking for drama.
Yeah.
But then the whole script just flips.
Hmm?
Management comes down with a new policy. The job now requires night shifts.
Ah.
And it's not negotiable.
Yeah.
But here's the kicker. You literally can't do it. Your doctor says no. Your body just cannot handle the graveyard shift anymore.
It's that classic unstoppable force meets an immovable object. Corporate policy versus your actual biology.
Usually this is where the panic would set in. This is
Yeah.
where you scramble to update a resume that you haven't touched in a decade.
Right. You're dipping into savings. Maybe you start thinking about driving for a ride share, anything to keep the lights on. It's a full-blown crisis.
But today, we are looking at a stack of documents. Termination letters, bank statements, personal logs that tell a completely different story.
It's a story about what happens when the main power gets cut. But you've spent the last 25 years secretly building a backup generator in the basement.
We are doing a deep dive into the files of a man named Ben Sim. He was a technician, a regular guy, not some hedge fund manager or a tech CEO.
And when he got that termination letter, he didn't panic. He just sort of looked at the paper, looked at his spreadsheets, and realized...
He's already free.
And that's what we're here to unpack today. This isn't just a story about retiring early. It's like a masterclass in engineering a life where your boss's opinion of you just stops mattering.
But I do have to warn you right now, Ben is not your average retiree.
Right.
We're going to talk about some lifestyle choices today that might sound a little extreme.
Extreme is a very polite way of putting it. We're talking about a portfolio worth nearly $750,000, managed by a guy who hand washes his clothes because he won't pay for the electricity to run a washing machine.
So, if you want to know how to buy your freedom for the price of a water heater, stay with us. Let's unpack this.
Okay, let's start with the catalyst. Because usually people plan their retirement date. Ben, he had his chosen for him.
Right, so we have the actual termination documents here from APM Property Management. He'd been there since, late 2014?
It's a classic case of role restructuring. They just needed bodies for the night shift to cover some operational gaps.
And we have the medical review right here. It's totally black and white. He is medically unfit for night work.
Now, in most of these cases, the employee just feels powerless. They resign, or they take a demotion, or they beg for a different role.
But Ben did something really interesting here. He didn't just walk away quietly.
No, and this is the first glimpse we get of his engineer mindset. He treated the whole thing like a contract dispute. He didn't get emotional, he got procedural.
So he brought in the union and the Ministry of Manpower, or MOM.
That's a bold move for a guy who's technically being let go for not meeting the new requirements.
It is, but it's totally rational. He argued that his inability to work wasn't a refusal, it was a medical incapacity. He basically forced a negotiation.
And because he pushed back, he didn't just walk away.
With nothing.
Exactly. I'm looking at the settlement letter here. He secured an ex gratia payment.
Okay, for those who might not know, what exactly is that?
An ex gratia payment is basically a goodwill payment. The company pays you to leave amicably, but they don't admit any legal liability. It's a handshake with a check in it.
And it wasn't a tiny check. He got 9,342 Singapore dollars, which was 3 months' salary, plus another special $1,000 lump sum.
So all in, about 10 grand to cushion the landing.
Now, for most people, that 10 grand is a survival lifeline. It's, how do I pay the mortgage next month money?
But Ben's notes on this are fascinating. He didn't see this as a lifeline. He viewed it purely as, capital allocation.
Because he didn't need it for groceries.
He didn't need it at all. He had already decided that the job itself was a bad trade. He has this phrase in his reflection logs: trading time for money is a lousy trade.
There's a specific detail in his health logs that it drives this whole point home for me. It's about his hands.
Oh, the eczema. This part is visceral.
Yeah. While he was working, rushing for buses, dealing with tenant complaints, all that stress, his hands were a total disaster.
We're talking severe eczema, blisters, even bleeding. He writes about having to constantly use steroid creams just to function.
And the data point that matters.
Yeah.
The minute he's retired, after February 29, 2024, he stops the medication.
And the eczema just It clears up completely.
It's incredible. It's literally like his body was rejecting the job.
It's a physical manifestation of a toxic asset. We
Yeah.
usually talk about toxic assets in finance, right? Bad debt or crashing stocks. But for Ben, the employment contract itself was the toxic asset.
It was physically degrading his hardware, his body.
Exactly. So he cuts the toxic asset. He's officially retired at 58.
Now, this is where the financial advisor usually asks, okay, but do you have enough to survive?
Right, because if you save your hands but you starve to death, that's not exactly a win.
Correct. And this is where we move from like a heartwarming story to a hardcore financial case study.
Mm-hmm.
We have his expense charts for August 2025.
So this is a year and a half after he quit.
I had to reread this pie chart 3 times. His total monthly expenses in Singapore, one of the most expensive cities on the planet,
Yeah.
were 667 Singapore dollars and 33 cents.
It is staggering. I mean, that's less than what many people spend just on car payments or, eating out.
How is that even physically possible? I mean, looking at the breakdown, he's not homeless. He lives in an apartment.
Well, let's peel back the layers of this onion. First, the biggest fixed cost is just zero. Housing. He owns his 3-room HDB flat. It's fully paid off. He credits the homeownership scheme for that early stability. So 0 rent, 0 mortgage.
Okay, that is a massive advantage. I mean, if you have no rent, the game changes completely.
It does. But even with a paid-off house, under $700 is incredibly low for food, utilities, transport, everything.
This is where we get into what you call the engineering of enough.
Exactly.
The utility bill is what really got me. It's rock bottom. And the reason why is, well, frankly, it sounds miserable to me.
You're talking about the water heater.
He doesn't have one. He takes cold showers every single day.
It's a philosophy of subtraction, right? Most people think, I want hot showers, so I need to earn more money to pay the electric bill. Ben thinks, if I don't need hot showers, I don't need the job. He removed the appliance to remove the dependency on the income?
And it keeps going. He has no washing machine.
Nope. He washes all his clothes by hand. He writes in his logs he has no plans to buy one.
Okay, I have to play devil's advocate here for a second. Is that freedom? I mean, spending your retirement scrubbing shirts in a bucket, that sounds like hard labor to me.
That is the central question, isn't it? But you have to flip it around. Ben would argue that spending 9 hours a day, 5 days a week, answering to a boss just so you can save 30 minutes on laundry, that is the bad trade. He's reclaimed his time. If he wants to spend 20 minutes washing a shirt, he can because he owns the other 23 hours of the day.
It's just a radical revaluation of time. What about food? You can't hand wash your hunger away.
He cooks 3 meals a day, almost exclusively. His data shows about 37% of his spending is at NTUC Fair Price, the local supermarket.
So no restaurants, no food delivery.
None. And he uses the government CDC vouchers religiously.
It's just relentless efficiency.
Yeah.
But there is one line item in his system that honestly scares me a little. Insurance.
Yeah. Yes.
The self-insurance strategy.
He refuses to buy any private insurance. He relies on MediShield Life, which is the basic national scheme, and says he self-insures for the rest with his assets. He calls premiums a negative drain on wealth.
This is highly controversial. We should be very clear.
Right.
We are not recommending this.
One major catastrophic illness could wipe out a huge chunk of that capital.
Exactly. One major surgery, one long-term care situation, and poof.
But you have to look at it from his engineer's perspective. He has run the probabilities. He believes his asset base is large enough to absorb a shock, and statistically, he thinks he's better off keeping that premium money invested.
So it's a calculated risk.
It's a huge calculated risk. He's getting on his own redundancy system rather than an insurance company's payout.
It's a high-wire act.
Mm-hmm.
But it works because of the ratio. And this is the insight I want you to really grasp. It's not just that his expenses are low, it's the gap.
The gap between his expenses and his income.
Right. His expenses, that $667, represents only 29.73% of his passive income.
That is just wild. Financial planners usually talk about the 4% rule, right? Withdraw 4% of your portfolio a year. Ben is nowhere near that danger zone.
He has a 70% safety margin. Every month, 70% of his passive income is not spent.
It just gets reinvested. So even in retirement, he's actually getting richer.
Okay, so we've covered the burn side of the equation. We had to talk about the earn side. Because you can't live on $667 if you have zero income. Where is the money coming from?
This is the generator. As of January 2025, Ben's liquid assets, so we're excluding the apartment stand at around 740,000 Singapore dollars.
Which is a healthy amount, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But it's not millions. You usually hear about people retiring early with $2, $3, $5 million.
And that's exactly why the expense side is so key. But let's look at how he manages that 740K. He is not leaving it in a savings account.
Yeah.
He's engineering a yield. In 2025, his portfolio generated a dividend yield of 7.33%.
7.3% is high. That's way better than a bank deposit or a government bond. How is he getting that kind of return without taking crazy risks?
He's doing it by moving upstream in the capital food chain. He's heavily concentrated in Asia, specifically Singapore. He basically acts like a mini institution.
I'm looking at the pie charts here. He owns, what, roughly 100 companies, but he's not sitting there trading stocks all day.
Yeah.
No, and that's a crucial distinction. He realized that picking individual stocks is stressful. It requires maintenance. He wanted a low-maintenance machine, so he uses unit trusts and REITs.
Let's name some names here. What's under the hood?
Okay, so his heavy hitters are funds like the FSSA Dividend Advantage Fund. That gives him exposure to the Asia-Pacific giants, companies like Tencent, HDFC Bank in India, the big semiconductor players.
So growth and dividends.
Exactly. And for the local stuff, he uses the Amova Singapore Dividend Equity Fund. This is his anchor. It holds the boring, cash-gushing Singapore blue chips, DBS Bank, Singtel, Keppel. He's betting on the Singapore economy.
And then the REITs, real estate investment trusts.
About 30% of the portfolio. This is brilliant for a retiree. He essentially collects rent from shopping malls and office towers, but he never has to fix a toilet or chase a tenant.
He's outsourced all the headaches, but he's kept the cash flow.
Precisely. But he's not 100% in stocks. The engineer in him needs a failsafe, so he keeps about 10% in cash and Singapore savings bonds.
Is that his dry powder?
It's his shock absorber. If the market crashes 20% tomorrow, Ben doesn't have to sell his stocks at a loss to buy groceries. He spends the cash. When the market is high, he trims profits and refills the cash bucket. It's a self-correcting mechanism.
That makes a ton of sense. It prevents him from becoming a forced seller. Speaking of selling, he has this no-sell policy. Can you explain that?
This is his behavioral edge. Most people, they obsess over the price of their portfolio. Oh no, my stocks are down 5% today.
Right.
Ben ignores the price. He only looks at the income.
The dividends.
The dividends. He treats his portfolio like a golden goose. You eat the eggs, the dividends, but you never, ever chop off the goose's leg for dinner. He writes that capital appreciation is just a bonus. The goal is purely cash flow.
He even made a pretty aggressive move with his CPF. That's the Singaporean mandatory Social Security savings.
Yeah, he did. On March 16, 2024, right after he retired, he closed his CPF investment account and pulled all the funds out to manage them personally.
That takes some real confidence. The CPF guarantees a risk-free interest rate. He basically said, I can beat the government.
He did. But more importantly, he wanted flexibility. He didn't want the rules changing on him again. He wanted full control of the switchboard.
So let's recap. We have a guy who lives on almost nothing, manages his own high-yield fund, and heals his own eczema by quitting his job. But here's the criticism I hear bubbling up. Is he just, rotting away?
Right.
I mean, it's 59. Is he just sitting in a dark room to save electricity?
You would think so, wouldn't you? The stereotypical miser, but this is where the story gets really inspiring. Ben isn't retired in the sense of doing nothing. He's just done trading time for money. In 2025, he went back to school.
I saw this in Ngee Ann Polytechnic. And he didn't take, pottery for beginners or something.
No, he took a specialist diploma in applied generative artificial intelligence.
The guy is almost 60,
Right.
and he's learning about large language models and prompt engineering.
It just destroys the stereotype. He views learning as preventative maintenance for the brain. Just like he fixed his hands by quitting the job, he's fixing his mind by challenging it with new tech.
He has this great metaphor where he compares his life to a facility management system.
Yes. He says for 25 years, his salary was the mains power. But mains power can be cut. His portfolio is the redundancy backup. The moment that termination letter came, the mains cut out.
And the backup kicked in. No flickering lights. The system just stayed online.
It's such a calm way to look at financial panic. Most people see losing a job as a car crash. He sees it as a power outage that was handled by a generator he built.
And he quotes Charlie Munger and Rockefeller to back it all up. Wealth is not a reward for intelligence, but a return on rationality.
That Munger quote just hits hard, doesn't it?
It fits Ben perfectly. He wasn't an investment banker. He was a technician. He wasn't the smartest guy in the room, maybe, but he was the most rational. He didn't let lifestyle creep eat his raises.
He didn't buy a car to impress neighbors he didn't even like.
Which brings up the Rockefeller quote he loves. Envy will destroy judgment.
That is the keystone. The whole system, the 667 a budget, the cold showers, it all falls apart if you envy your neighbor's lifestyle. If Ben wanted what his neighbors had, he would have to go back to work.
So wealth for Ben isn't a number, it's the gap.
Precisely. It's the gap between what you earn, or what your assets earn, and what you burn. As long as that gap is positive, you are free.
You know, reading through his posts, there's this profound sense of relief. He talks about time ownership. He says the ultimate goal isn't luxury, it's just regaining the right to his own breakfast, his own dinner, his own life.
Think about the contrast. On one side, you have what we could call the washing machine lifestyle. You have hot water, you have delivery food, you have nice clothes, but you are terrified of an email from HR.
Terrified of a medical review.
You are popping pills for stress. And on the other side,
You have Ben. Cold showers, hand-washed shirts, simple food.
but absolute unshakable security. No one can fire him. No one can tell him when to wake up.
It really forces you, the listener, to ask a tough question. What is the price of your freedom? Ben bought his for the price of a washing machine and a water heater.
And 25 years of discipline. We can't gloss over that. He didn't just wake up with $740,000. He built that.
True. But the trigger, the thing that made it all work now, was the willingness to define enough at a very, very low level.
And that's the replicable part. Maybe you don't go as extreme as Ben. Maybe you keep the hot showers.
Please keep the hot showers if you want them.
But could you live on 50% of your income? Because if you could, you'd be free in half the time.
It changes the whole conversation from how do I make $1 million to how do I need less?
And how do I build a system that doesn't rely on a boss liking me? Because that employment relationship, as Ben found out, is fragile. The dividend check from DBS Bank, that's a lot more robust.
So that's the story of Ben Sim. From a technician forced out for medical reasons to a master of his own time, studying AI and healing his own body. It's a heck of a case study.
It really is. It's a masterclass in rationality over emotion.
So here's the thought we want to leave you with today. We all have a number in our heads, right?
Yeah.
The amount of money we think we need to walk away. Ben Sim proved that number might be a lot lower than you think if you prioritize freedom over comfort.
The question is, would you be willing to live Ben's lifestyle today? The cold showers, the hand laundry, no restaurants, if it meant you never had to clock in again tomorrow? Or is that warm water in that washing machine worth another 5 or 10 years at the office?
That is a tough one to answer. I'm going to go stare at my washing machine for a while and have a serious conversation with it. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
See you next time.